Alright guys, here is the end result of our calipers, and man do they look good. I didn't do the best job on the paint. You may have noticed I put a kind of like a clear bucket over them towards like the middle of the painting. I recommend doing that from the beginning just so you keep any particulate matter from kind of settling on them. I was painting outside, so it kind of was an oversight on my part. One thing you could do if you wanted to get like the perfect color would be to put these bolts in so that you painted them. So you could put the calipers together again just for the time being, and then put these bolts in and these pins. That way they all were painted red at the same time. I don't really particularly care. I think they came out good regardless. And then the final thing was putting it in the oven. My calipers are damaged if you can't tell. I got a little bit of a better deal on them because of that. But there were kind of like pores where air was hiding that didn't quite get all the way done, like filled in when I was primering and painting. So when I did put it in the oven, I did get a few air bubbles around where the road rash was, where basically the air was just trying to escape. It's not too big of a problem, and it's definitely not very noticeable. They still look very good. So I'm happy with the way they came out. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take the old calipers off the car and then put these new ones on. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you what we're going to do. So basically, if you can see, this is your brake line that comes up over here to the rear of the strut. And we're going to go ahead and take that clip off real quick, just so we can get a little more flex in our line. And then there's two bolts. You can't see them on these guys. There's two bolts on the bottom of the caliper, and they're pretty much like directly right here and directly over here. I would show you, but it's just really dark. And we're going to go ahead and undo those two. I believe they're 17, but the correct number will flash on the screen right now. And basically we're going to go ahead and take this caliper and we're going to move it and we're going to set it onto our little stand right here. And then from that we're going to go ahead and undo the brake line from the back of it and then transfer it over to the new one. And then from that we will have a good time just reinstalling these. We will put one washer in to correctly space it. But other than that, it should be all good. So let's go ahead and take these old guys off. Alright guys, now that we have the caliper off, we're going to go ahead and undo the brake line. What I did is I went ahead and put a pair of vice grips on here. They're not super tight, it's not crushing the heck out of it, but the point of it is to kind of try to keep any brake fluid from coming out, and especially limit anything that does. So we have our 12 mil here, and then there's a banjo bolt on the back of this. We're simply going to go ahead and undo it. There is going to be some brake fluid coming out, so have a paper or something underneath. And then we will go ahead and try to transfer that over to our new caliper fairly quickly, so we lose as little fluid as possible. Alright guys, so what I actually went ahead and decided to do, because I was having difficulty trying to get that banjo bolt off while this caliper was free and loose, I went ahead and put it back on, just put a few threads in on the bolts, nothing crazy, and I'm going to go ahead and undo it on the car. If you want to make it a little bit easier on your life, you can turn your wheels so it'll come out a little bit. But I have the new caliper right here, so we can transfer it over really quickly, so we can lose as little fluid as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and try this now, see how well it works. Alright guys, so it worked out pretty well. I forgot the line lock, so I had to go and put that back on. We lost a little bit of fluid, nothing crazy though. And I do want to stress this is not the final point for this banjo bolt. I just wanted to get on there and get it sealed so we could lose as little bit of fluid as possible. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is take this old caliper off and then put that one back on and readjust the position of the line, because I don't believe that is correct. I believe it has to be a little bit more, if that's pointing upwards, I think it's got to be pointing that way a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and take this old one off, put this new one on. I'm going to grab the washers so we can center this appropriately, because it's just a little bit different for the Z32s. And then we will go ahead and readjust that banjo bolt, make sure everything fits in correctly, and then this will be our brand new Z32 4-piston caliper. Alright, so I went ahead and got a pair of thin washers. You can get these at Home Depot if you don't have any. I had a few, so really the only important thing is that they're the same thickness, and you just want to space it a little bit, not too much. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to put the caliper on the hub and try to put these on first. I'll put the bolt and then this, and hopefully we can slip these bad boys on there. So remember guys, this washer goes between the knuckle itself, so the knuckle kind of looks like this, and then you have washer, and then the bolt goes through and the caliper is touching the washer. If the caliper is not touching the washer, it's not spacing it. If you put this on the other side of the knuckle, it's not spacing it. So we do want to put this knuckle, washer, caliper. Just make sure you get that correct. So now let's go ahead and try and get this on here. We'll see how well it works. Alright guys, one thing that I forgot about these Z32 calipers is since they're a little bit longer, they do interfere with the dust guard right here. So if you want to, what you can do is just go ahead and take the whole thing off. That requires you to remove this whole assembly though, and I don't want to do that. So if you're like doing coilovers and everything already and you have everything apart, you can do it like that. But what I'm going to go ahead and just do, it's simple and very rudimentary. I got a pair of channel locks like this. And the only reason you use channel locks is just because of this really nice 90-degree you can get in here, so you can bend it really easily. And I'm just going to bend back this part. It's difficult for you to see, but it goes down and then in like this. So we're just going to be bending the tip of it. We might do the same thing on the bottom. I have to recheck on the caliper and see if that's the problem. But right now we're hitting this and it's not letting it slide far enough onto the actual rotor itself. So let's go ahead and bend a little bit of this back and see what we can do. Alright guys, you can see we finally got this caliper on here. We can go ahead and check the gap in here. Let's push the pads all the way back and we'll go ahead and see. It is pretty nicely centered around this rotor. We could probably run a Z32 rotor. I believe those are, they slip on instead of these, they bolt to the hub. Those are slip over. So you would have to run a slip over adapter. Or get the, I believe it's 89 through 88 or 89 turbo hubs. They are slip-on as well. But this is going to work for what it is. There is a little bit of brake pad that kind of goes over the edge of the rotor, but that's not too big of a problem. It doesn't really matter too much to us. But you can see everything spins really well. Now what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead and adjust the banjo bolt on the back like before. I'm going to go ahead and use my vice grips and this to kind of clamp the line off while we do it again. And we're going to basically rotate it, because right now it's facing that way, and we want it to be about straight up so this can go over and attach to the back of that guy. Or we might rotate it, we'll see how it rotates, and we'll see how it goes, and find the best spot to get this to really fit. Alright guys, we'll see if we can go ahead and see back in here. Let me go ahead and get a light for us. But the banjo is basically going straight towards the strut tower now. So now we have this whole thing going up properly where it should be, and we are all good. We're going to go ahead and you want to make sure the bleeder's at the top when you do these. That is the only directional thing. And now you can see hopefully you can see, we've got some space between the rotor and the brake pad, and that will go away once we go ahead and start bleeding the brakes and getting them properly tightened down to where they need to be. And this kind of pretty much is the entire install, guys. So I will go ahead and add anything to the video right now if there is anything in the end. But this is pretty much it. I did want to go ahead, I have the old caliper and I have the other side caliper right there. I'm going to go ahead and weigh them and figure out what the difference is between the Z32 aluminum calipers and the Z31 iron calipers. And I'll go ahead and show you that right now. Alright guys, let's go ahead and weigh these calipers. We're going to start off with the stock iron. And we're going to get 10 pounds and then 5.5 ounces. And we will go ahead and get our new aluminum. And remember, these are with the pads in them, so it's nothing crazy different. We gotta take off the hold. Alright. And these ones are 7 pounds, 12.8 ounces. So a little under 3 pounds lighter. So that is a pretty big difference when you're talking about 10 pounds. That's a 30% weight savings. So there you go, guys. That's the difference between these two. Let me know if you have any questions about this swap in the comments. I will do my best to go ahead and answer them. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys later. Alright guys, real quick, I wanted to go ahead and answer one question about the fitment on stock wheels. So I'm running my stock 86 NA rims, and it does interfere just a tiny little bit. You can see right there and right there, it's scraped a tiny little bit. So if you want to go ahead and rectify this beforehand and shave a little bit of it off, I would suggest that. Or if you're running aftermarket wheels, definitely just put the wheels on, put these guys on before you do everything, and really just see how it fits. You could run a spacer, but these wheels are hub-centric, which means that the wheel actually rests on the inside of this hub here and supports all the weight through that. So if you push it out too far, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up slipping off that hub and you'll just be carrying all the weight on your studs, which is not good. And definitely, we don't have a lot of stud to work with. If you can see, it's only about 1 inch. So when I found this out, I did find out a washer about this size. This is maybe 1 millimeter. It did solve it. So if you want to go ahead and put like a 1 millimeter spacer on here, it would work. But obviously I just put these on here just to test out fitment. I am not running with washers, and I do not recommend running with washers. It severely limits the amount of area that you have on here. So if you are going to put a spacer on, put a full-on real spacer. Don't skimp out. I've had a friend who put spacers on that were real cheap China spacers, and he took a corner and his wheel just snapped off. So definitely you want to be careful with suspension parts and keep it safe. But there you go, guys. I just want to go ahead and give you this little heads up real quick to run the appropriate setup. If you want to just shave that real quick or run a spacer, it is up to you.